Eleanor burst into her parents' home, her face pale and streaked with tears. The intensity of her entrance immediately alarmed her mother, Penelope Strickland, who rushed to her side. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" Penelope asked, wrapping her arms tightly around her daughter. Eleanor collapsed into her mother's embrace, her body trembling with violent sobs. Between gasping breaths, she managed to stammer, "Zachary, he's left me." Penelope gently stroked her daughter's hair, whispering soft reassurances that Eleanor could barely comprehend. Her hands shook as she reached into her purse, pulling out a crumpled envelope and handing it to her father, Anthony Strickland. "He sent this to my office today," she choked out, her voice raw with emotion. Anthony took the envelope carefully, his expression unreadable. Before opening it, he asked evenly, "And Benjamin? Is he with Zachary?" Eleanor nodded weakly. "Yes, he dropped Kevin off here earlier. Said he needed to take Benjamin to run some errands." She wiped at her tear-streaked face, her voice faltering. Then I got this." Her throat tightened, the next words barely escaping her lips. "Divorce papers, delivered to my desk." Anthony sank into his chair, his gaze shifting between his distraught wife and daughter, who clung to each other as if they were survivors of a shipwreck. Penelope murmured soothing words as Anthony unfolded the papers, scanning them with a deepening frown. "No warning, no discussion," he muttered, his anger barely contained. His grip on the papers tightened as he looked at Eleanor. "He's accusing you of infidelity." His voice was firm, his gaze piercing. "Is there any truth to that?" Eleanor's face crumpled in anguish. "No. Oh," she cried, "I've never been unfaithful to him. He's convinced I'm involved with someone from work. But it's not true. I love him." Her words dissolved into sobs, each one heavier with pain. Anthony exhaled slowly, his expression darkening. He didn't believe the accusation for a second. "This doesn't make sense," he said, his voice low and measured. "Did he ever explain why he thinks you're cheating?" Frustration flashed across Eleanor's tear-streaked face. "I don't know. Maybe because I hugged a coworker after we closed a big deal," she replied bitterly. After a moment, her voice softened. "There was one other thing. At a work event, I had too much to drink, and a colleague kissed me. I pulled away as soon as I realized what was happening. Nothing else happened, I swear." Anthony flipped through the papers, his eyes narrowing. "He's asking for joint custody of Benjamin," he said grimly, "but he's disowning Kevin entirely. He wants Kevin's last name changed and his name removed from the birth certificate." He looked up, his expression filled with disbelief. "Do you have any idea why?" The air in the room grew heavy. Eleanor and Penelope exchanged a horrified glance before Eleanor crumbled again, her sobs shaking her body. Anthony's voice cut through the chaos, steady and unyielding. "Eleanor, look at me." Hesitant, she lifted her tear-streaked face to meet his gaze. His eyes were sharp, his voice like steel. "He's claiming Kevin isn't his. There's a DNA test in here showing less than a 1% chance that Zachary is the father. Is this true?" Eleanor let out a strangled cry and buried her face in her mother's shoulder. Penelope shot Anthony a fierce glare. "You're not helping," she snapped. Anthony didn't back down. "Did you know about this?" he demanded, his tone unwavering as he turned to Penelope. "Did Eleanor ever tell you?" Penelope hesitated, her expression calculating. Finally, she shook her head. "No. This is as much a shock to me as it is to you. She's just as blindsided as we are." Anthony didn't seem convinced. His tone hardened. "Give me your phones. Both of you." Penelope stiffened. "Excuse me? If you have nothing to hide, it shouldn't be a problem," he said coldly. "Unlock them, or I'll file for divorce tomorrow." Fury sparked in Penelope's eyes. "You've never had a reason to doubt me, Anthony. You're not getting my phone, and we are not getting a divorce." His expression remained unreadable, his voice as cold as stone. "I've turned a blind eye to too many lies, but this is the final straw," Anthony declared, his voice low but resolute. "Watching another man raise my daughter's child has changed everything. Hand over your phones now, or this marriage is done. Penelope's composure shattered like glass. Her face twisted in fury as she exploded. Go to hell, Anthony. I'll make sure you lose everything you have. Anthony remained unfazed, his expression unreadable. Calmly, he placed the divorce papers on the coffee table and rose to his feet. Do whatever you feel you must, he replied quietly before walking into the kitchen. Moments later, he returned with a plastic Ziploc bag, which he turned inside out and slipped over his hand like a glove. Without a word, he began gathering the used napkins that sat in front of Eleanor, sealing the bag carefully once he was done. Penelope's voice pierced the silence. What on earth are you doing? She shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at the bag. Anthony's face remained impassive as he replied, I'm reaching out to Zachary to find out where he had the DNA test done. He's discovered Kevin isn't his son, and now I need to confirm whether Eleanor is truly mine. Penelope's scream echoed through the room as she lunged at him, her hands clawing for his face in blind rage. Years of forgotten martial arts training kicked in as Anthony instinctively struck a calculated blow to her solar plexus, not out of aggression, but just enough to make her stumble and catch her breath. She crumpled to the floor, gasping for air, her face a mix of shock and terror. Eleanor let out a panicked scream as she rushed to her mother's side. Tears streamed down her face as she cried, Dad, stop this. Unmoved, Anthony turned on his heel and strode toward his office. He didn't wait for Penelope to recover. In minutes, he had packed his essentials, reset the Wi-Fi password, and walked out the door, leaving behind 30 years of marriage. Anthony's first stop was at McDonald's, where he used the free Wi-Fi to access his financial accounts. Methodically, he closed their shared credit cards and transferred half the funds from their joint bank account into his personal account under the pretense of a business transaction. It was clean, efficient, and final. Later that evening, Anthony arrived at Adam Davis's home. Adam greeted him at the door with a knowing expression. This couldn't have gone worse, Anthony muttered as he stepped inside. Adam let out a bitter laugh. Calling it a disaster doesn't do it justice, he replied, leading Anthony to the back patio. The sprawling golf course beyond stretched into the twilight. Adam offered him a glass of bourbon, and the two men sat in silence for a while, each lost in thought. Finally, Anthony spoke. How's Zachary holding up? Adam gave him a hard look. Do you really need to ask? He's losing his youngest son, and you're losing your grandson. Nobody walks away from something like this unscathed. Anthony sighed heavily, his guilt evident. I can't even look Eleanor or Penelope in the eye. Penelope knew there was a possibility Kevin wasn't Zachary's child and kept it to herself. And now I'm questioning whether Eleanor is even mine. Adam's expression darkened. Babe's furious. I've never seen her like this. If Eleanor weren't Benjamin's mother, I think she'd have already done something drastic. Anthony nodded grimly. Keep her calm. We don't need more chaos. Before Adam could respond, a sharp voice cut through the tension. Babe stormed onto the patio, her icy glare fixed on Anthony. Why is he here? She demanded, her tone frigid. And why are the police outside? Adam raised a placating hand. Relax, sweetheart. Anthony's on Zachary's side. Before he could explain further, the doorbell rang. 2 police officers stood at the entrance, their faces unreadable. Anthony stepped forward to meet them, his expression resigned. I was expecting this, he murmured, turning and extending his wrists as they moved to take him into custody. Adam called after him, his voice filled with a mix of frustration and concern. I'll get in contact with Zachary. We'll sort this out, Anthony said firmly. 6 months later, much of the chaos had died down, but the emotional wounds were still raw. Initially, Eleanor fought hard against a divorce, pleading for marriage counseling. When that failed, her desperation shifted to unreasonable demands. Eventually, a DNA test confirmed that she was, in fact, Anthony's biological daughter, yet the knowledge brought him little peace. Though he still cared for her as his daughter, the respect he once held for her had vanished. Their bond diminished to almost nothing, and Anthony doubted it would ever be repaired. Eleanor refused to let him see Kevin, his grandson, adding another layer of pain to the situation. A key piece of evidence: a pharmacy security photo capturing Anthony with scratches and claw marks on his face, helped clear him of a misdemeanor charge for allegedly assaulting Penelope. Meanwhile, Anthony found himself trapped in a grueling divorce battle with Penelope, a woman he no longer trusted or respected. She fought the proceedings at every step, using her legal team to stall and delay the inevitable. The deadlock might have dragged on indefinitely if not for a shocking act of violence. One night in the parking lot of a nightclub, Penelope and Eleanor were brutally attacked. Both women claimed they had no idea who their assailant was. However, security footage revealed a masked individual, small in stature, dressed in black and wielding a slim weighted rod. The attacker struck with such force that the weapon visibly bent. The assault left both women with multiple fractures and several missing teeth. Though they miraculously avoided permanent physical damage, from their hospital beds, Penelope and Eleanor speculated that Zachary might have orchestrated the attack. But given Z's imposing 6 feet 3 inches frame, he was quickly dismissed as a suspect. The case went unresolved, leaving the women shaken and profoundly changed. Their vibrant social lives disappeared, replaced by reclusive behavior. Most of their days were spent at home, arguing with one another. As time passed, the fights subsided, and they stopped resisting the divorce proceedings. The custody battle over Benjamin concluded with a shared 50-50 arrangement, though Zachary was designated as the primary custodial parent. Neither side was awarded child or spousal support. During the court process, another bombshell came to light. A court-ordered DNA test revealed that Kevin's biological father was Andrew Aubert. Zachary's name was formally removed from Kevin's birth certificate, and Andrew was ordered to pay child support to Eleanor. The revelation devastated Andrew. His wife immediately filed for divorce, leaving him financially crippled with 3 children to support and spousal payments to his ex-wife, who had been a stay-at-home mom at his insistence. Andrew's financial collapse seemed inevitable. Zachary, meanwhile, found comfort in the unwavering support of his parents, Adam and Babe. Despite Eleanor's betrayal, he remained employed at Anthony's landscaping business, where he worked diligently to help the company grow. Under Zachary's care, Benjamin thrived, though his visits with Eleanor were often turbulent. Every time Benjamin stayed with his mother, he found himself caught in the storm of her emotional instability. One moment, she seethed with bitterness toward Zachary. The next, she broke down in tears, mourning everything she had lost. Penelope, for her part, remained deeply resentful. Her animosity toward Anthony only grew as his charisma and newfound popularity among the single women at the country club became apparent. Through all the upheaval, Adam and Babe stood by their son and grandson without hesitation. Babe, unshaken by the family drama, continued to dominate the women's golf circuit. Even missing a few clubs from her bag, she claimed her 5th consecutive victory in the Women's Golf Championship. Her determination remained unshakable, proving that neither scandal, nor betrayal, nor even family chaos could slow her down. And so, despite the turmoil that had unfolded, life carried on. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, take care, dear viewer. See you soon.